Classroom Dynamics is supported by Logitech. As education continues to evolve, so does Logitech Education, your partner in content creation for the classroom. With Logitech's cutting-edge technology, students not only learn, but also become content creators. Whether it's in person or online, Logitech's tools are designed to inspire educators and learners alike. Logitech Education, inspiring the next generation of creators. For more, visit logitech.com/education. Transforming classrooms, one innovation at a time. Every classroom has the potential to be extraordinary, and the Logitech Reach adjustable content camera is your partner in making that happen. With its flexible arm and clear video, you can now showcase everything from detailed drawings to live experiments, ensuring that every student is engaged and involved. Whether you're teaching in person or online, Logitech Reach helps you connect with your students in a whole new way. Ready to take your lessons further? Visit logitech.com/reach and elevate your classroom to a whole new level. Welcome to Classroom Dynamics Bits and Bytes, the podcast within the podcast where we explore cutting-edge technologies for your classroom. Hi everybody, I'm your host Adam Todd. Today we're talking about what happens when one of the most digitally advanced education systems in the world decides to hit pause. Today's Shorts episode takes us to Sweden, a country long celebrated for putting devices in every student's hands, embedding digital tools into daily instruction, and leading the global charge toward tech-forward classrooms. And now, they're bringing back paper. They're bringing back physical textbooks, handwriting, traditional tactile learning. In a bold national shift, Sweden's Ministry of Education is reinvesting heavily in printed books and recalibrating its digital-first curriculum. Why? Because the science caught up with the policy. Recent research and other medical experts found measurable declines in reading comprehension and attention spans tied to excessive screen exposure in schools. Students could swipe, they could click, and they can navigate interfaces with ease, but deep reading, sustained focus, complex text analysis, those skills were slipping. Even foundational motor skills linked to handwriting were weakening. Neuroscience tells us something powerful. Writing by hand and reading on paper activate different neural pathways than typing and scrolling. The tactile process strengthens memory retention, it deepens comprehension, and it anchors learning in ways screens often don't. I remember as a kid studying and rewriting my notes over and over and over, and it helped me retain that information. But now it's changing again. We're going back to basics. What began as a policy correction in 2023 is becoming a full-scale educational recalibration by 2026. But here's the key. Sweden isn't abandoning technology, they're just repositioning it. Digital tools are returning to their proper role, supplemental, not substitute. This isn't a rejection of innovation, it's just a reminder of keeping the balance. And for educators everywhere, especially those navigating AI, adaptive platforms, and one-to-one device initiatives, Sweden has become a case study in something that we all need to consider. Technology should enhance learning, not replace the fundamentals that made it stick in the first place. And in a world competing for attention by the second, the ability to read deeply, write clearly, and sustain focus isn't old school. It's actually now becoming a competitive advantage. Now for more on this shockwave that's sure to shake up education, here are our Google Notebook language model host, Bits and Bytes.
So I want to start today with a concept, and I think every parent listening is going to get this immediately. It's this idea of the screen time sandwich.
The screen time sandwich. Okay, that's a new one. I'm listening.
Bear with me. So you have the bread, right? That's the time at home, the mornings, the evenings, where you are fighting the good fight. You're setting limits. You're locking away the tablets.
You're worrying about the dopamine loops, the blue light, all of it.
Exactly. You're trying to do everything right to, mitigate the harms of screens. But then you send your kid to school for 8 hours. And that's the filling of the sandwich. And that filling is just hours and hours of more screens.
Ah, okay. I see where you're going. So all your hard work at home is kind of undone at school, but it's all disguised as educational technology.
Precisely. And the source material we're diving into today just nails this contradiction. We see iPads in nursery, Power School in primary, and then for older kids, it's all Google Classroom. It feels inevitable.
Like it's just progress.
Yeah.
Except in one country.
Except in Sweden. Because Sweden has looked at this whole situation, looked at the data, and they've decided to, well, just throw the whole thing out. They're becoming the first country to really kick tech out of the classroom and hit rewind.
And we should be super clear from the start. This is not some, nostalgic thing. They're not doing it because they missed the smell of old books. This is a huge policy change, and it's based on some really hard, uncomfortable data.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. We're going to unpack why Sweden is trading iPads for paperbacks. We'll look at why EdTech is being called a failed experiment, the brain science behind it, and, my favorite part, the incredible irony of how Silicon Valley executives actually educate their own children.
And we really need to dig into this idea of executive function, because that seems to be what's at stake here.
Definitely. But before we get to the brain science, I want to go back a bit. Because it's easy to be critical now, but 15 years ago, this all felt like the right thing to do, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you have to look at it with some compassion. The intention was good.
Yeah.
When the iPad first came out or Chromebooks hit the market, it felt futuristically exciting.
I remember that whole one laptop per child dream. The idea was that you give a kid a device, and you're basically giving them the keys to the Library of Alexandria. You're democratizing knowledge.
Or schools spent fortunes, absolute fortunes, buying the hardware, upgrading the Wi-Fi, training teachers. The assumption was just, well, it's digital, it's new, so it must be better.
The shiny new toy syndrome.
Exactly. But here's where the problem really starts. We adopted this entire model of screen-based education without ever asking the most fundamental scientific question.
Does it actually work?
Does it work? I mean, you'd assume they tested it, right?
Yeah.
If a drug company has a new pill for kids, they run years of trials. Surely, before we redesign the entire classroom, someone ran the numbers.
You would hope so.
Well, the data in our source is just staggering. Let's take the UK, for example.
Mm-hmm.
What percentage of edtech companies do you think have run randomized controlled trials, the gold standard of proof, to show their products actually help kids learn?
Oh, wow. For something that's in every school, I'd hope it's high. Maybe 40, 50%?
7.
As in SEVEN%.
Just 7%. And only 12% have used any kind of third-party certification at all.
Honestly, that's terrifying. It means the vast majority of tech sitting in front of students right now is basically unproven.
It's worse than unproven.
Yeah.
It's marketing that's been dressed up as pedagogy. We turned the classroom into a giant, uncontrolled experiment with kids as the subjects. Just kind of ignored the pesky facts because the tech felt like progress.
And now the results of that experiment are coming in, which brings us to the Karolinska Institute.
Right. And for anyone who doesn't know, this isn't some fringe group. The Karolinska Institute in Sweden is a major medical university. They award the Nobel Prize in medicine. When they publish something, people listen.
And they released a report that basically lit the fuse for this whole Swedish rewind. So what did they find? Because just saying screens are bad is a bit vague.
Their conclusion was incredibly blunt. They found, and I'm quoting here, clear scientific evidence that digital tools impair rather than enhance student learning.
Impair. That is such a strong word. It's not just it didn't help. It actively hurt.
It hurt. Correct. They drew a direct line from the heavy use of digital tools to a decline in key learning outcomes. And the Swedish government took that finding very, very seriously. They publicly called EdTech a failed experiment.
So what does that look like in practice? Are they literally ripping smart boards off the walls?
They're reinvesting in physical materials. The government is shifting the budget away from tech and back to printed books, paper, and pens. They're putting actual textbooks back on desks.
And this is all happening while test scores are falling pretty much everywhere else, right?
That's the global context, exactly. Math, science, reading scores, they're all plummeting. The Karolinska Institute basically looked at that trend and said, look, if we've flooded schools with tech for a decade and scores have dropped for a decade, maybe the tech isn't the solution we thought it was.
I want to dig into the why here, because I can hear the skeptic in me, and probably in a lot of listeners, saying, hold on, a computer has all the world's information. How can access to more information impair learning?
And that question takes us right to the heart of this, executive function.
Right. The source has this great line, why are we outsourcing executive function skills to a computer? Let's break that down. What are we really talking about?
So think of executive function as the CEO of your brain. It's the set of mental skills that lets you plan, focus, remember instructions, and juggle multiple tasks successfully. It's your working memory, your mental flexibility, your self-control.
Okay, so it's the ability to actually sit down, focus on one chapter in a book, and understand it without getting distracted 5 times.
Precisely. Now think about what happens when you introduce a device like a laptop into that equation, especially for older students, teens using Google Classroom.
Yeah, because the argument for them is always that they need it for research, for productivity.
But look at the mechanics of it. When a student uses a physical book, the process is linear. You read page 1, then page 2. Your brain builds a tactile map of where the information is.
I can still picture where certain quotes were in my old textbooks, like top left of the page, halfway through.
Exactly. Now replace that with a screen. First, you're outsourcing the organization. The software tells you what to do. The search bar finds the keyword. You aren't building those mental muscles for organizing information yourself.
So the app becomes the CEO, and our brain gets demoted to what, an intern?
An intern doing data entry? Maybe, yeah. But the much bigger issue is attention. A device is an everything machine. Yeah. When a student is supposed to be writing an essay on a laptop, they are one click away from everything else in the world. They're constantly fighting that urge to switch tabs.
And even if you don't click, the effort of resisting, it's exhausting. It's like trying to have a serious conversation in the middle of a carnival.
That's a perfect analogy, and the Karolinska study points out that this constant fracturing of attention makes deep work almost impossible. You can't get into a state of flow if you're subconsciously waiting for a notification.
And we have data to back this up, beyond just the Karolinska findings.
We do. The OECD, that's the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, they found this really damning correlation. Students who use computers very frequently at school actually do a lot worse in most learning outcomes.
See, that's the part that just feels so counterintuitive. You'd think the heavy users would be the future coding geniuses.
But they're not. They're the ones who are most distracted. The data is clear. More screen time correlates with lower performance. The promised academic benefits just aren't there.
And it's so important to talk about the older kids here because I think we give them a pass. We think, okay, screens are bad for toddlers, but a 16-year-old has to learn these digital skills.
But the source argues that's exactly the age when their executive function is being finalized. If you outsource those crucial skills to an app during the teenage years, you might be stunting their ability to focus and organize for life.
And teachers are seeing it firsthand. The source quotes British teachers saying the tech has hampered the progress of their pupils.
Hampered progress.
Yeah.
It's such a polite British way of saying it's a complete disaster.
But here's the part that really seals it for me. If these high-tech schools are so effective, why is the private tutoring industry booming?
That is the smoking gun, isn't it? The source points to this huge explosion in tutoring, especially for kids in private schools.
Right. These are the kids with the newest iPads, the best software, the most connected classrooms, and yet their parents are shelling out a fortune for a person to come to their house and teach them math with a pencil and paper.
It just completely demolishes the argument that tech is some great equalizer. If the tech actually worked, you wouldn't need the tutor. Parents are basically paying to supplement the high-tech school with low-tech teaching because they know, deep down, the screens aren't working.
It's created a system where the school provides the distraction and the parents have to pay for the education.
It's a cynical take,
Yeah.
but the evidence seems to point that way.
Okay, speaking of cynical, let's pivot to what I think is the most jaw-dropping part of this whole thing, the Silicon Valley paradox.
Oh, I love this part. This is where it all gets very revealing.
Because the marketing tells you, if you want your kid to be the next Steve Jobs, get them an iPad as a toddler. But what did the actual Steve Jobs do?
It is the ultimate case of do as I say, not as I do.
So the scene is 2010. The iPad just launched. Jobs is on stage calling it magical and revolutionary. A reporter asks him, "Your kids must love the iPad, right?"
And his answer is legendary. They haven't used it. We limit how much technology our kids use at home.
It just floors me. The man who created the device didn't let his own kids use it.
And he's not an outlier. Bill Gates, the man who put a computer on every desk, has said devices have a lousy record in the classroom.
A lousy record from the founder of Microsoft.
And then there's Mark Zuckerberg. He didn't send his kids to some high-tech VR academy. He went to a tech-free school himself.
A tech-free school.
Yeah, a school that focuses on physical interaction, on play, on no screens.
What do they know that the rest of us don't? This isn't just a coincidence. It's a clear pattern.
They know what's in the sauce. They design the algorithms. They know these devices are engineered for addiction, not for education. They know that to build the skills you need to create the next iPad, you can't be learning on an iPad.
It's like a chef who only eats simple, home-cooked meals.
It's exactly that. They know that true innovation comes from deep thought, from sustained, uninterrupted focus. And their devices are the enemy of that focus.
So if the creators of the tech keep their own kids away from it, and the top medical institutes say it impairs learning, and an entire country is hitting the rewind button, you'd think the debate would be over.
You think so?
Looking for a smarter way to protect and use your tech on the go? The Higher Ground Gear DataKeeper Plus CS is built for action. Work directly from the case without ever removing your device. Stay organized with a built-in storage pocket for accessories, and rest easy knowing you've got serious drop protection designed for real-world classrooms and busy professionals. The DataKeeper Plus CS. Organize smarter, protect better, and work wherever you are. For more information, visit hggear.com today. Looking to spark excitement in your classroom and save time? Head over to Highly Motivated on Teachers Make Teachers. From engaging lesson plans to creative lab books and test prep tools, these resources are designed to inspire learning and take the planning stress off your plate. Highly Motivated, motivating teaching resources that engage and inspire. For more, search Highly Motivated on Teachers Make Teachers.
But the reality is we are headed for a massive collision between this data and the administrative bureaucracy of education.
What do you mean?
Well, while Sweden is pulling up the drawbridge, other places are doubling down. Our source says that in the UK, exam boards plan to move every single subject online by 2030.
Wait, every subject? Online exams by 2030? That's just a few years away.
Every single one. The train has already left the station. The infrastructure is being built for a fully digital assessment system.
So you have a head-on crash coming. Science is on one track yelling, "Stop, this is harmful," and the system is on another track saying, "Full steam ahead, digital everything."
And it raises this really terrifying question about the future of inequality. Well, you can imagine a future where the public school system goes all digital because it's cheaper, it's more efficient to administer. So most kids stare at screens all day. Their attention spans are shot. Their executive function is outsourced.
And meanwhile, the wealthy.
Meanwhile, the elite, the next generation of tech moguls, send their kids to these boutique, tech-free schools where they learn from books and have actual conversations with human teachers.
So a screen-free childhood becomes a luxury good?
Precisely. The ability to concentrate becomes a competitive advantage that you have to pay for.
That's a pretty dystopian vision.
It is. And that's why what Sweden is doing is so important. They are the first Western country to really stand up and say, no, we're not going down that path. If their test scores rebound after this, it will be very, very hard for other countries to justify that 2030 deadline.
So Sweden has become the control group for the rest of the developed world.
In a way, yes. They're proving you can step off the tech treadmill. UNESCO is calling for moderation, but Sweden is testing the idea that maybe moderation isn't enough. Maybe a full rewind is what's needed.
It just forces you to rethink what modern education even means. We've always equated modern with digital, but maybe a truly modern education is one that protects a child's brain from the digital world so they can learn how to eventually use it instead of being used by it.
I think that's the whole ballgame. Are we training masters of technology, or are we training servants to the algorithm? The data suggests we're currently training servants.
Well, this has been a huge topic. We started with a sandwich, and we've ended up with a fundamental question about the future of human cognition.
And just remember, the people who built the tools, they voted with their feet. They chose books for their own kids. And that says more than any shiny marketing campaign ever could.
It really does. So for everyone listening, whether you're a parent or a student, or just someone wondering why you can't focus for more than 5 minutes, keep an eye on Sweden. The results of this great rewind could really define how we all learn in the future.
I'll be watching very closely.
For more on Classroom Dynamics, follow us on X at Class Dynamics or on Instagram at Classroom Dynamics Podcast. And be sure to search Classroom Dynamics on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast shows.